Black Friday strategies in 2024 to keep you profitable. How do you maximize profits? I'm going to kind of go through the checklist. I'll give you some examples of pitfalls that I've seen in the past and hopefully help you plan better for this year. Black Friday's coming up in only a couple of months here. So first thing we want to talk about with Black Friday is kind of like your overall strategy. Okay, so first, let me just take a step back. Progressively gotten more competitive. So let's call that progressively, they've gotten worse, right? For retailers or for the cuts, great. And why can you have a problem? Because maybe you didn't strategy around it. Why are you having a problem? Because you don't have a distinct strategy for what you're doing on Black Friday. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's break your products. You're selling a physical product. So let's break that into three categories. You're going to have your prized products. Okay, this is, the heart and soul of your company. And then you potentially are going to have overstock products. And then you're also going to have maybe some end of life SKUs. And then maybe there's a fourth category of brand new products. Okay, so brand new products and prized products, those are always very tempting to put into these Black Friday sales. In fact, for you as the CEO, what happens? You're putting out every fire. You're so busy. Black Friday comes up, your sales or marketing team is handling it. Sales is talking to the buyers over at Amazon, and Amazon wants your best SKUs. Sales comes back with a plan, and they're going to promote, 10 or 15 or 20 SKUs or whatever the plan's going to be. And a lot of those are your best SKUs, right? And from my experience, that is a mistake. And I'll kind of get into why it's a mistake. You have these other two buckets, which are, of course, are easy pickings. You want to move your excess inventory. And then you've got your late stage end of life products. And, going back, say 10 years ago, when you look at market prices and you discounted something, you could easily bring it back up and you wouldn't have a ton of channel conflicts. But, those days are gone. Okay. Walmart's watching everything you're doing, Target, Best Buy, Home Depot, they're all watching everything, and they're watching everything that Amazon's doing. And of course, what happens the second you dive price, everybody either complains or everybody follows, and you have a hard time getting that price back up. So you've all experienced this, I'm sure, in your businesses as you've launched your Black Friday deals. But every year, the temptation is this time will be different. Wow, we need to move this product, or I'm going to get exposure for this product. And what does sales tell you? They tell you the halo effect. Okay, the halo effect is the reason that it's okay to lose money. The halo effect is the reason it's okay to discount your product, because after Black Friday, going right into the holiday season, you're going to get, additional sales. So you boosted the rank of your product. So of course, it looks like you won on Black Friday until you look at the margins. You had a huge sales number. It's kind of happens, late in the month. The allowances aren't really properly accrued. You close the month and it's like, wow, that was amazing. And then, here comes 60 days later and, more accruals and costs coming from Amazon, depending on how your accounting situation is set up. And what do you find out? Okay, it was like a loser. And some of those sales didn't even drag into Q4, like as far as the halo effect. So this is like, we do the same thing every year. We go through this process. We forgot about last year. We think it's going to be better and we promote the wrong products. Okay. What are the right strategies for Black Friday? Let's talk about that. Obviously, the easy pickings is excess inventory. Promote the heck out of that. Turn that into cash flow, move that out of your warehouse. But maybe kind of like the less thought of solution is sort of your end of life inventory. Okay. These maybe are your kind of B and C SKUs, not the A SKUs. These are SKUs that have kind of been around a while. They got a little bit of juice left to squeeze, and those are excellent ones to promote. And maybe even just put a little bit of lipstick on and get some traction and move them for another year or two. But they're not often the first choice of your sales and marketing team. That's the problem. Okay, so I think what does this all mean? As you're prepping for Black Friday, depending on how close you are to it as the CEO and how deep you get, it's messaging that to your team. Okay, it's focusing on bottom line, focusing on margins, not focusing on a promise for tomorrow, which unfortunately, it worked maybe 10 years ago and maybe 5 years ago. It doesn't work anymore, right? You got to be profitable, or you have to have a reason why you're not being profitable on that sale, which is to move inventory. End of life SKUs, to maybe, keep a little bit of juice in the tank for those. So have a specific plan on Black Friday. Understand that your sales and marketing while they have the best intentions, depending on how they're commissioned or incentivized, it's sometimes to incentivize sales on a complete bottom line net profit type of situation. So a lot of times sales is going to be commissioned, incentivized on top line sales. And that's a huge trap when it comes to things like Black Friday, right? Because that's their eye is only on that. In fact, and they're not trying to do any harm here. It's just like and they, even if they do understand the allowances and the discounts and how that affects the margins, it's one of those things where it's just too easy to go after those sales. So that's where the accountability does go to the CEO. You really have to understand the scope of how this is going to affect the year end and the margins. So I'll tell you a couple times, I've made that mistake. In fact, just recently, somewhat recently, we had a 6-figure loss, okay, on a SKU because, there was miscommunication. It went up. It was priced too low. It wasn't overseen, and all of the inventory just ran through at this discount price. So, that basically wiped out the profit from much of the other sales that weekend, right? So think about that. I'm sure that's happened to a lot of you, and I'd love to hear in the comments, by the way, if you guys have any stories or horror stories or great stories you want to tell about Black Friday, because you can definitely launch a Black Friday. Okay, it's a humongous opportunity, and I don't want to discount that. I'm just coming in on the side of caution here to make sure you're protecting your margins, because they can disappear on Amazon over that weekend. So again, another thing is to think about strategic promotions, right? You can promote things. Maybe they're not going to come up, high up on the list as bestsellers on Black Friday, but they can be strategically promoted. You can even get concessions from your factories. So think about that and kind of working in partnership to get a few percent here, and then you can offer a few more percent to your customers, but you're still focusing on gross margins. So that would be one strategy. The other thing is to consider is you really don't, in my opinion, you do not want Amazon dependence. Okay. And a lot of companies are dependent on Amazon. Okay. So think about like what percentage of your total sales, are they over 25%? Are they over 40%? Are you that kind of weak on the other channels? That's going to cause some issues for you down the road, especially, if your goal is to sell down the road and you're going to be looking at concentration risk. So yes, you don't want to turn away Amazon sales, but you want all of those sales to be profitable. You don't want to be overly dependent on Amazon. At the same time, if you're putting your focus there and you're driving the prices down, it's going to be harder for you to grow on other platforms like Walmart and Home Depot and everybody else. And sometimes it's too easy, right? It's too easy to just go for the sales on Amazon because the platform is so much easier to work with and the volume is so high. But then you have to ask yourself, what are you growing for? Are you growing for volume or are you growing for margin? And Amazon's definitely not a margin play, right? So those are my thoughts. I've made plenty of mistakes, so I'm definitely not excluded. I'm part of the problem here, but I've learned from those mistakes. And I am in the middle of launching a physical product, actually. I'll talk about it more in future videos, but I know I need to be on these marketplaces, but my idea here is I'm just going to focus. When I launch this, it's going to be like 100% D2C. I'm going to have to go back to 2004 and remember how I did everything then. And I want to build up my own customers. I know it'll be slower, and I'm not worried about that right now, but every sale will be profitable. I can really focus on making the best product exactly for what the customer needs in this situation, in this category of that I'm going to be going into. That again, I can share later. I can't right now because we're still in the R&D stage, but the idea is that getting huge volume out of the gate on Amazon and having to bring in all of this inventory and then finding out at the end of the day that you barely made any money after you had to build a huge team around this and expand your supply chain. So my idea here is I'm just going to pull back. I'm going to build a great profitable business with an incredible product. And then at that point, I think I can launch it in a way where it's still very margin positive on the channel. So that's my strategy there. I hope that this is helpful with my thoughts on Black Friday 2024. I hope you guys are all successful and would love to hear your comments and see what your past successes are, maybe your plans for this year. Take care.